Welcome to Blueprint Boost for Contractors, the podcast that's your go-to source for unlocking the secrets to successful marketing, gaining valuable insights, and growing your contracting business with less stress. Your host is David Brooks, and he's thrilled to be your guide on this journey. As a seasoned expert in the contracting industry, David understands the challenges you face. That's why each episode is crafted to provide you with actionable strategies and proven blueprints to boost your business to new heights.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, David Brooks, powered by Contractor Rhino, your go-to source for all your digital marketing and accounting needs for the trades. For this episode, we do have a guest with us, and I'll allow him to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Jason Roberson. I am a business broker based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and also own a small business myself.
Mhm. Jason, nice to have you. Thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it, David. Excited to be here.
Yeah, no, glad to have you. So, could you tell us a little bit about your background and, how you got to where you're at today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I consider myself a recovering stockbroker. So for anyone from the financial industry, you kind of know that pain. But like most folks, struggled a little bit finding what the right path was for me in corporate America. And so I worked as a stockbroker in the financial industry, got into IPOs, and decided the world wasn't right for me. And so went back to school thinking more education would solve the problem. So got my MBA at night and then went and joined a big corporate firm where I worked on their strategy, how to grow new products. But my primary role there was working to help buy and sell pieces of the business. I worked in mergers and acquisitions. Did that for a couple of years and then jumped into consulting, helping other businesses do something similar. And still, in that position where something wasn't right, it just didn't fit for me. And so I started looking for a business to buy on my own. I left my consulting gig and said, you know what, I'm going all in. I'll find the right business. And after a short period of time, I realized it's really hard to buy business. There's no good information. There's no structure out there. And I had a background in how to buy businesses. I should have known, but ended up connecting with a couple guys who sell small businesses. They found out about my background and they said, you fit perfectly. You should join while you look for something to buy. And I did, and I love it. So now, I help small business owners. I work independently, helping them sell their business, market it, get it listed, value it, all the way to closing. And in that time, I have found a business I loved and I bought it and have a goal of buying even more.
Nice. That's a nice transitional period.
Yeah, it's over, 15 years. It just sounds really condensed when I put it that way.
No, we always have to appreciate the journey, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, what was your first experience, helping facilitate that first sale? What did you learn from it?
It's nerve-wracking. I went from working on deals where I'd have teams of 30 to 40 people. We'd all be coordinated. Everyone has a specialty to you're it. You're the specialist. You have to know everything. And so I went to, sell the first business. And from the time you list to the time you sell it, it's generally a 3 to 9 month process. It's not quick. And as luck would have it, two decided to sell at once. So I went from having nothing, in the small business market, never selling a small one, to selling two at the same time. It was just eye-opening and how much you need to know as far as due diligence, the process, how to protect yourself. The other piece is just how much of a Wild West it is. There's really no regulation at this level. You can structure things very openly. You can be very creative in the way you come up with training processes, future earnouts. And so because of that, there's so much flexibility in the industry I didn't even know about that I learned in that one moment. Uh, yeah, it was very stressful, but very exciting.
No, it's good that you had those lessons, and even though, it was a stressful period, you were able to get through it and take some insights away from it.
Yeah, good mentors were really what helped me. I have some other guys in the industry that I work with closely that help guide me along, and that's kind of key to any industry, I think. Yeah,
Mhm.
leaning on experience.
Oh yeah, experience and wisdom and
Mm.
the key.
Yeah.
So if I'm a contractor and I'm considering acquiring another business, what things should I be looking at?
Yeah, so I would always say start with your own business. Look at your own systems and processes. So you need to have a strong leadership team in place of some sort. Think of it as when you buy business, you're going to have to jump into that other business. So who's going to keep running yours?
Mhm.
The other piece is if you're a contractor and you're looking to expand, so let's say you're an HVAC contractor, you want to buy another HVAC business. In order to really properly value that, you need to understand how you run your business. So, what's my customer acquisition cost? What's my procurement cost? What do most of my guys do? Are they hourly? Are they commission? All right. And then you take that and you'll start to look at the other business and say, all right, here's how they run it. What could I, or where could I add value? Where's that improvement level? And it starts to help you formulate what that price is. Because the price is so much more than just the value you could add in a competitive industry. It's also, or sorry, more than the numbers on the sheet. In a competitive industry, it is the value you can add as well.
That's interesting. I love how you said, systems and processes already being in place because you're not, you may not be considering that like, hey, I'm going to acquire this new business and it's like, hey, or do you have the right processes in place to even take on the extra overhead for that, right? To make sure that the new business gets up to a successful start.
Yeah, I sold an HVAC company last year in Tennessee, and it was super interesting because it is a very hot market. Private equity jumps in there. There's tons of individuals who, heard advertised by some guru online that says, "Hey, go out and buy business, no money down," which it doesn't quite work like that. But everyone got interested, and so I was overwhelmed by inquiries. But the guy who ended up buying it was someone who owned other ones, and he was just so detail at how he runs those, understanding his numbers inside and out and how he could improve the business, that he actually came in with a really strong offer. And then when he found out it was competitive, he goes, you know what, based on how I can improve this, I'll go ahead and just raise this because I know I can make it back in this time frame, and that's good enough. If you don't know your own business to know how you can improve, you don't have that flexibility and you lose deals.
Mhm. I love that you said, he was very meticulous. He knew his processes. He really thought strategically, thinking the whole process through. And that's really good to be able to go in and already have done your homework and know what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, and that's it. It's all about you prepare yourself more than the target, needs to be perfect because no small business is perfect. There's
Mhm.
always room to improve. If it was perfect, it would be growing to 9, 10, 11 figures. We all have things we can work on, but you got to be pretty nailed down when you go to buy something to expand.
Mhm. And what are some red flags that contractors should watch out for when considering a purchase?
One of the biggest ones is if the owner is active in delivering the service, which means if he's the one going out and doing all the estimating, or if he's actually servicing, let's say HVAC, if he's servicing units, that's going to be a red flag because that margin is completely gone. Day one, he's going to be training you. You lose all of that. Another one is bank accounts. Ask them how they set up their bank accounts. A lot of folks will use their personal bank account as their business bank account, and you're never going to be able to sort through it and find the truth. It's too messy. You need someone who has a clear system to manage the bank accounts. And a third one is asking about turnover in employees. If employees are constantly turning over, it's going to be an issue. It means they're underpaid, and you're either going to spend all your time recruiting or you're going to have to give raises. Either way, it's going to be an extra cost to you. Those are the three biggest red flags. You're going to find 1,000 things you don't like in a business. Those three stick out as some of the most common ones.
Mhm. That's great information to know because you may not even be thinking about those things coming into it. And like you said, a turnover is, a big one, right? Have to make
Mhm.
sure that the team that's there is happy, they're getting compensated, and they have a great culture or, positive culture.
Mhm. Yeah, and there are ways to mitigate some of those risks. Obviously the staffing, you need to know that up front. But if you're not great on the financials, you can hire outside firms to help and review those for you. And it's well worth the cost of, spending, sad to say, but it's probably $20,000 to have someone go through and dissect those numbers on the business when you get close to making a deal. But if that 20,000 might save you $200,000, $300,000 in the deal cost, it is well worth the investment. They call them quality of earnings.
Mhm.
I can't recommend them enough, especially any business that you're not comfortable reviewing the financials and you're sure you know what you're doing. Um, that's one way to mitigate that risk. I highly recommend.
Excellent. Good tip for the audience to know.
Yeah, yeah. There's other ways, but again, if you go to ChatGPT and you type in due diligence, what should I look for? ChatGPT is actually pretty good to
Mhm.
give you a starting list. There's resources out there to help you try and find um, those issues because what you don't want to do is you don't want to see a red flag and not address it, but you also don't want to kill a deal over a red flag that's really maybe just a yellow flag.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good way to take advantage of technology, right?
Mm.
AI to be able to help assist with some of those points.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great at idea generation, not great at analysis.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I've learned. Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
yeah.
Now, how do you determine whether a business is being undervalued or is it a great opportunity?
So me speaking from the aspect of being a buyer,
Yep.
yeah, uh, a couple different things. One is the niche it's in. So if it's a very unique niche where I don't feel like there's a ton of competition, I look at it as a blue ocean. There's ton of opportunity to increase. Where I don't necessarily see undervalued or overvalued. I tend to see managed well and mismanaged. And
Mhm.
I actually go for mismanaged, oddly enough. I don't shoot for large ones where I have to work full time. I have partners, and we all split up the duties. Um, you know, the tricky part to our industry is every business you pretty much see out there, you see a higher price than it's worth. Almost every time businesses are overvalued. Where ones get undervalued is when they're really small, they're in a niche, and people don't understand it, or they think they're going to have to jump in and work 40 hours a week and they can't earn enough. That's my sweet spot because I'll go in, I'll split up duties between me and my partners. Even though I have a financial background, my skill set is putting systems in place and establishing operations, and I can do that in a month. So I'll do that very quickly and set that up. So it's yeah, I can't say undervalued or overvalued. What I tend to say is how easy is it to fix, and I'll pay a little bit more for an easy business to fix. Most always those are going to be undervalued because they're under the amount that a bank will loan on. They're too mismanaged to get a loan, so they have to take less than they really should get.
Mhm. Well, that's good insights to know. And then in relation with that, the next question segue. So let's just say, hey, this opportunity looks good, but I'm trying to connect the dots with financing. What are some ways that someone can look at actually getting the extra financing to make the deal happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. What you tend to see is the most common form. Let's say, you're a contractor of some sort trying to buy another one. Most people reach out for an SBA loan. SBA, Small Business Administration. The process is brutal, but it is also what makes the world go round in the small business market. They reach out to different bankers, and so there's probably 50 to 100 different banks that do these loans. There's lists online. There's great websites that show you I think it's sbalenders.com, something like that. I'd have to double check. That actually shows you lenders who specialize within your industry. You can reach out to these folks. They run numbers. They'll do it before you even put in an offer to help you come up with, a good price. And in those cases, it's great because they will walk you through every step of the process on their end, because that lender usually gets paid a fee and a commission to get that deal closed. They want to make sure it works. Other methods that we see quite a bit are if you save up a significant amount of money, but neither of you want to wait on a bank, you can put down money towards that business, pay the owner right at the outset, say, hey, here's my down payment. And then they can actually finance you over a period of 5, 10, 15 years. That would be called a seller financing or a seller note. Pretty industry standard for 10 years to be a loan length. And we do see those if they trust you and they know you in the market. That doesn't work if they've never met you before. They have no idea who you are. Um, and a third potential structure is sometimes you can pay a little bit and then also give them, a minority ownership stake in your future entity. So say, hey, listen, my goal is to buy 5 or 6 of these and then sell them off, in 5, 6 years. I will go ahead and pay you a down payment, take over your business, and give you an ownership stake if you're okay hanging on to sell in that 5 or 6 years. Again, it's all about relationship in those last two situations. If you have a good one, you can make it work. If not, you're probably going to the SBA.
No, that's
Yeah.
really great information to have because you're coming into a situation and you want to know all the resources available to you so that
Mm.
you can make the best informed decision and get that guidance along the way.
Yeah, I've even seen folks take out home equity lines of credit or
Mhm.
use commercial buildings as loans for commercial loans. Those are very, very rare. They are possible, absolutely, just a little bit more rare.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a few different ways that, like, as you mentioned, and you just do your due diligence, right? And you
Mm.
be able to kind of determine what scenario makes sense for you as a business owner.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's more and more information online, especially becoming a heavy LinkedIn user. Just creep on LinkedIn. You'll see people posting all different ideas, all different structures, and it'll give you tons of information you never knew was out there.
LinkedIn, folks, LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Now, what should a person expect? So they acquired the business, the first 90 days after acquiring a business, what does that usually look like for a buyer?
straight chaos. There's no other way to put it. So if you're married, your
Mhm.
spouse needs to be fully on board, and especially if you have kids, they're going to be watching those kids. They're going to be making the meals. They're going to be driving a lot of the pickups. It's going to be rough, especially that first 30. Day one, most employees won't even know that the business was sold. So you're going to walk in there with the seller, introduce yourself, and say, "Hey, my name's Jason. I'm taking over your business. I promise things aren't going to change. I bought it because of you guys. I want to hear your ideas on how to improve." And you meet with them one on one. You get to know them. You're going to find out a ton from the employees that you wish the owner would have told you. That next 2 to 3 weeks, you're just buried in learning everything you can from the owner, learning every process, every system, trying to get as up to speed as possible. You want to make sure, first off, you understand the financial management of the business. That's number one. And number two, you want to make sure that you understand payroll. Because if you miss payroll, your business is cooked. You're done. It's over. You get your hands around that immediately, make sure that people are getting paid, and then you focus on making sure customers are still getting their product, their service, whatever it may be, and you can get paid. After that, you can start spreading out after that 30 days into other areas, learning some of the operations, learning about, how you handle procurement costs, learning about your relationships with vendors, whatever it may be. That's kind of day 30 to 90. Don't change anything if at all possible, unless you are really good and you've done this multiple times. You know exactly what you want. You're there to learn, to soak up information, because once that guy sells or that woman sells the business, odds are they're going to be really disengaged, and it just gets worse each week. So you learn as much as you can, and by the end of the first month, odds are you're not going to learn much more from the seller, and it's on you to just dive into the business and learn the rest.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good gem right there. Not changing things so quickly, coming in, hearing people, really getting to develop those relationships, making sure that you make payroll,
Mhm.
and just, really being able to have a good support system too, because it's a team effort. So if you have a spouse, a significant other, it is going to take help to be able to make sure that you can focus on what you need to focus on to make sure it's a success.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no one more important to the success of the business than your partner, spouse, whatever they may be. No one. If they aren't on board, if your life at home is rough, your business will become rough. You will not succeed.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Now, can you share a real world example of an acquisition that went really well?
Yeah. Um, let's see. So there was one, I would say I'll stick to a little bit more manufacturing bent if that works.
Yeah, that works.
There's one where there's a manufacturer in the Southeast that made these custom trailer parts. Like they would take trailers and they do welding and customize them for large loads. They worked on a contract basis. Big carrier calls them and says, "Hey, we need to be able to move these massive generators that you see at recovery sites or at stadiums when they're trying to power the outside." Little telephone trailers and all that stuff, whatever it may be. Um, the guy who acquired it uh, had another complementary business. So he made custom steel ramps to get items up onto trailers. And so what he saw is two different markets. I compare them together really well. And he went in, he analyzed the business. He saw the profit margins they were making. He saw the systems they were using. And then he took what he could do with his product and figured out, all right, how much could I run through of this business? Which is kind of like what you do as a contractor. You say, this is how I'm doing it now, but how much benefit is going to be in the second one if I do it that same way I was doing there first? He came in, bought the business, and we're talking seven figures, really good sized business, and then started hiring folks and pumping through additional product almost right away, immediately increased that bottom line of the business, immediately increased the revenue. And he didn't really change anything except adding a couple folks who worked on that. That was it. Teaching his guys, cross training. Um, their day to day didn't change, their lives didn't change. They still worked four 9 hour shifts and then just worked 5 hours on Fridays. That was it. Or, yeah, 4 or 5 hours on Fridays. Customize the schedule. He just focused on making sure the people's schedule didn't change, but adding an additional product line and continuing to service their customers. That was it, and he is killing it.
Mm. Wow, that's a really good story.
Yeah. Another interesting one I saw was that HVAC company I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
So the guy's now bought, I think, 10 or 11. This is what he does. He's rolling up HVAC businesses. He didn't even value the business based off traditional financials. He looked at the financials, checked the tax forms, make sure they matched. He cared about call volumes. He wanted to verify the call volumes of the business, and then he wanted to verify procurement costs. So what does it cost for a new unit? And then how much does he get it for? Because he can negotiate pricing power with suppliers.
Mhm.
And then it was basically saying, all right, here's what I can generate per call, and here's the cost per these. And I know I can, go in and make, this much money, an extra 200K a year, whatever it turned out to be. That's how he offered it. That was it. It was amazing. Um, and he now, has this growing empire of HVAC businesses that eventually he'll exit and retire. Who knows? But until then, he just goes around buying them and has started to build a team who he sends in day one to change things because he's the exception. He's done it enough times now. He knows what he can change without losing folks.
Mhm.
Just a guy who I learned so much from in the way he rolls up businesses. It it's an art and a science for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really good way to take a unique approach to it. And you learn something as well. So
Yeah.
that helps you along the way. So that's also a really great example of minds being able to come together and expertise and just knowledge from one person to the next to be able to make something work and be successful.
Oh yeah, and you see, I mean, if you're an HVAC contractor in one side of a city and you buy one on the other side, how much is really going to change?
Mhm.
Your rent costs might change because you have folks, and then your pay structures, you'll probably want to bring them more in line to each other.
Mhm.
But what it takes to service a client, what it takes to go out, you kind of know those costs already. And so you know they'll probably migrate over to your costs. You just model with your cost in that business and you get a really good idea of your potential and adjust for the minor changes, the rent difference, the payroll difference, stuff like that.
Now that makes valid sense.
Yeah.
Now, are there any specific industries or niches within contracting that are prime for acquisition opportunities right now?
Nearly all of them. It's the baby boomer generation retiring that's triggering it. So you have these folks who are 60, 70, still going out there and running their business day in and day out. They want to retire, but as millennial kids, I'm within the millennial generation. Most of my friends never wanted to go out and work with their hands. They thought getting a cushy office job, wearing a button-up polo or whatever it is every day to the office was the end all be all. And so they didn't take over the business. There's no succession plan. Because of that, you do see these plumbing contractors, these HVAC contractors, these legacy manufacturing businesses, these electrical contractors, refrigeration technicians, all these people are retiring out and no one's replacing them. So if you get into those businesses, you're only going to be able to charge more and more. I think your opportunities are just going through the roof
Mhm.
because your competition's going down. Your biggest problem is probably the problem that every contractor tells you about, which is labor. It's hard to get labor, right? I have a background in commercial roofing. All my commercial roofing contractors would tell me the same thing. It is so hard to get labor. But if you can get enough labor, you just keep bumping up the cost, you pay them extremely well, the sky's the limit.
Mhm. No, that's great information to have. And like I said, we are in a kind of passing of the guard era
Mhm.
where, these guys are retiring and exiting, and you have a new generation that's coming in. So it's a great opportunity, great time to be able to get in early, and trades aren't going anywhere.
Mhm. I think we're seeing as well, private equity has gotten into trade businesses. So
Mhm.
they bought in, and everyone has their opinion. I think in some cases they're okay. In other cases, they destroy value and treat people poorly. And I don't think it's sustainable. But I say that to say it's not your handshake agreements anymore. It's someone going and throwing 1,000 Google ads and that's your competition. If you build a good reputation in the market, man, I think you can just kill it. In my area where I live in Nashville, there's a Facebook page for the entire, you'd call it the neighborhood of Nashville, the area. And anyone who needs anything, they go to Facebook and they ask opinions. They don't care about Google ads. They don't even care about Google reviews. They go there and they wait for reviews from actual people. I
Mhm.
think that's the future. None of us trust it the other ways anymore. And so you focus on customer delight, customer satisfaction, um, and you will, I think, slowly rip apart market share from those giant groups who may be able to do it cheaper, but they're going to charge twice as much as you because they can, and they have a shareholder to answer to.
Mhm. No, I like how you put that in. I think people don't get sometimes the human aspect of it, the
Mm.
customer and community aspect of it sometimes is overlooked, where people in the community may be familiar with, Joe over here at this business. They see him out and about, like they go hang out and have dinner with them, or kids softball games, just different
Mhm.
interactions and opportunities where, if you're more of that corporate like field, you may, like you said, you may have visibility, but people may just say, "Hey, I want to go with, the guy I know."
Yeah, exactly. Or the guy who, lives in the neighborhood,
Yep.
I mean, you just want someone to know that they're not going to tear you apart on prices.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I get anxiety when I go to the mechanic. I
Hmm.
have no idea what I'm going to pay, no idea how they're going to do it. And now I have a buddy who does a little bit of work on the side, and I send him everything. So, I mean, my small business is golf carts, right? So he gets my vehicles, he gets my girlfriend's vehicles, he gets my friends' vehicles. He fixes golf carts for us. He gets all my business because he's never done it the wrong way.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's something with that. It's there's the value there that can't be brought.
Mhm. That's it. And when you get big, you tend to lose that. But I think there's a level where people can have a couple build their empire and still keep that service. I just, it's going away so quickly, but
Mhm.
it's still a huge opportunity in every market. You can never say a market is saturated. I think every market is okay with great service entering.
Mhm. No, yeah, I think it's room for everybody.
Yeah,
It really is. It's just, what's your strategy, what's your plan? Everybody does it differently, and there's no one right way to do it.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Well, Jason, we appreciated this. Where can people go to learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Jason Roberson. You can search me on there. I think we're connected, so if they find you, they find me. I also have a website, jason-roberson.com, and then I'm part of Nashville Business Brokers as well as the Penson Group and selling small businesses. And if you're ever in Nashville, if you live in Nashville and need a golf cart for an event or want it to cruise around your neighborhood, not downtown, not Broadway, we don't do that. No alcohol in golf carts, but anywhere else, always happy. I am the owner of Nashville Golf Cart Rentals.
Excellent. Well, make sure you go check Jason out. I know I'll be heading down to Nashville within this next 6 months or so, so I'm gonna check them out myself.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, definitely let me know.
Great, excellent. Well, Jason, thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, David.
Yep, no problem. Everyone, thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure you tune into the next one. Until next time.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Blueprint Boost for Contractors. We hope you found today's insights and strategies valuable for your contracting business. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and please leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring content that truly matters.